You know, we're talking about Veritas and the victory.
Right.
And I want to keep raining down sunshine on people because
please bring
it started really dark. I mean, the Giuliani stuff is freaky.
Feels good now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a secret weapon.
Oh.
You ready for this ultimate secret weapon?
I'm ready.
It is the return of MAGA rallies. I'm kidding. It's not a secret weapon. But Donald Trump is planning, he may hold MAGA rallies beginning in May, according to a report.
He may.
The Trump rallies are going to come back. And, you know, I jokingly say it's a secret weapon, but it is going to start kicking things back up, getting people back in focus. Maybe not, you know, there's some bad people, I guess, but the general idea is getting people to center around something, probably something better than, I don't know, just pessimism and black pills.
Yeah, I don't, man. I hate trashing Trump because he's not a horrible human, but I don't like that he's the guy.
I mean,
Yep. That's right.
He's got
He's
got many fatal flaws. Many.
Well-
One of them is this desperate need to be liked.
yeah.
Has to be liked. And as Darren B very astutely pointed out on our last Friday sessions, check it out, youtube.com/Jack Murphy Live. He was an insider, Trump insider. I also interviewed Amanda Milius at the same time, and also a Trump insider. And they both were very honest and very open and candid about the flaws of the Trump administration from the perspective of true MAGA believers who were appointed by the president, right? So this is an honest assessment as you're going to get. And one of the things that they drilled down on was the fact that Trump needed to be liked. And what that translated into was him saying things like, "Oh, there's everybody loves us on campus. Oh, there's no conflicts in the street. Oh, everything's great. Everything's great about this. Everybody loves us."
Stocks.
Right? But at the same time, there was actually violence. You couldn't wear a MAGA hat on campus. There was actually violence at the rallies. There was actually people, you know, attacking other people for supporting Trump. And so his desire to reframe everything as, no, they love us, actually ran cover for the negative things that were happening on the ground. And so when he makes noises about 2024 or starting the rallies again, I don't get excited. I truly am not excited about that. I wish I were. I wish there was a 3.0 person who was like ready to be the Trump that we really need now. But that person hasn't seemed to materialize just yet. And Trump,
DeSantis?
you know, I just don't. I've watched him in Florida. I don't know too terribly much about him. The people of Florida may not vote for him as president because they want him to stay governor. You never know. Crazy things have happened.
Trump had that star power. He was a famous business mogul. Like who? It'd be like Mark Cuban, Elon Musk. Like who's a Zuckerberg? You know, some crazy.
Ugh.
Not him, obviously.
I mean, Trump before he was president is more famous than all three of those guys are now.
Yeah,
I wish
so famous.
I wish Zuckerberg would have run on the Democratic ticket.
That'd be cool.
In 2020. You know why? Because then he would. Well, actually, I don't know if he would have won, but it would have been hilarious.
To see him try to
It would have been the worst possible thing for the people of this planet, but it would have been hilarious to have, like, you know, Zuckerberg is like a combination of Data from Star Trek and the Joker.
He looks like Data.
He
Right,
does,
right.
yeah.
He really looks like Data.
So-
He does.
Oh, so like Lore, basically. Well, no. In Star Trek, Lore is Data's brother. He's another, but he's like megalomaniacal.
Yeah.
That doesn't really work. No, like Data's.
They did a good twin, bad twin shtick with Data and his android brother.
Well,
I did
so
not know that.
the original, I think Lore was first.
Oh.
Synthetic humanoid was with emotions, and he became sociopathic.
Oh, like a
so
human.
then Data was created without emotions and had to like learn or whatever. Oh. But no, it's not a fair comparison. It would actually be like, you know, Data was a good person, you know, struggling and trying to learn how to become human. You take that element of the very analytical, data driven, and combine it with the Joker, and you get Mark Zuckerberg. It would have been a hilarious presidency.
It'd been awesome.
But just
He's
terrible
more
for everyone.
powerful now.
Right? So he didn't want to do it.
Yeah. And that's a sad statement when we find out that the corporations are more powerful than the presidency of the United States. That's a problem.
You know what I love?
Libertarians, fix that.
Let me tell you, I've been laughing all day. So you might not know this, but I actually got more heavily involved. Well, I got heavily involved in politics through just general activism when I was younger in music, and I worked for nonprofits. But there was a period where I started hanging out at hacker spaces in like 2010, 2011. So I became friends with a lot of very prominent hackers in these spaces, hacker spaces. And at the time, Anonymous was really big, the hacker, collective online, and a couple other groups like Telecomics. Some of these individuals stayed true to their data love and libertarian principles of rejecting authoritarianism. But something really interesting happened. There's a hacker convention called DEF CON, which is a very prominent, it's like the biggest hacker convention. They also have Black Hat, which is very corporate. And we were watching, like my friends, some of these very prominent, well-known, famous hackers, the woke infestation, and activists started coming to the hacker conferences, people who were not hackers at all, who didn't understand the culture, didn't understand the symbols, didn't understand literally anything about hacker culture, but they liked the activism that they saw from hackers, so they started coming in. Some of these people at the time were very, very anti-intelligence agency. I mean, there were people screaming and ranting about spying and all that stuff. And something really interesting happened. I think it was a few years ago. One guy was speaking at DEF CON and made a statement where he was supporting law enforcement, and the audience started clapping and cheering. And he was like, wow, never thought I would give a speech at DEF CON and have people cheer for the federal government. And they were cheering because he was speaking about Russian interference and things like that. My favorite thing all day, I've been just laughing, slapping my knee, are some of these hacktivist Antifa people that I know cheering on the FBI right now. And so I've been commenting on their pages. I'm like, I am so glad to see you've been de-radicalized and you're on board with the federal government. I was really worried because you were very extremist anti-government when I knew you. To see you now fully on board with authority and the liberals running the government, it's a good thing. And all of a sudden, their brains just like,
oh,
you broke them.
Did it work?
They're rebooting. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Right? No, they'll come back with something else. It won't
brains
matter.
broke.
There's no way to shake people free, even with logic and their own behavior held up to them with a mirror 1 inch from their face.
It's like 1 out of 10.
It takes trauma. It takes serious trauma where you finally have to admit that your mental model of the world is not leading you into productive outcomes.
I got it. I got an idea. Here's what you got to do. All right.
Acid hail.
Read the foreground.
Go to your friends and family, right? The ones that are
the ones that are still talking to me.
Yeah, the ones who and be like, do you guys want to go see this band play? You want to go see a band? And then when they're like, oh sure, like we're gonna go out and see this big show. It's gonna be fantastic. It's gonna be this famous saxophonist or something. And then you bring them to a MAGA rally. And then you pull up in the parking lot. You walk up and they're like, why is everyone wearing MAGA hats? We're like, oh, I don't know. And then you get them in, and then they're standing there like, what's going on? And all of a sudden Trump comes out, and then they're going to be like, what's that? But then they're going to see it's a bunch of regular people, and everyone's going to be smiling. There's going to be babies, and there are people going to be shaking hands, and Donald Trump's going to be, I'm kidding, by the way. Don't really do that.
Oh, I was like signing people up in my head, visioning in my mind what was going to happen when he starts going, lock her up.
Well, I don't think he'll do that now.
Right, especially because Giuliani's going to be in jail.
We just watched earlier the Curb Your Enthusiasm where he gets the idea to wear the MAGA hat.
Yeah, so no one will talk to him.
So good. Because he has to have a meeting. Larry David has to have a meeting with a guy he doesn't like.
Yeah.
So he gets the idea to wear a MAGA hat, and the guy is like sitting in the restaurant, and he's like, I got to go. I don't want to be here. So then my favorite bit is when he's driving and he cuts off the biker, and the biker is like yelling at him like, ah. So he pulls over, and then he puts the hat on, and then the biker goes, just be more careful next time, and then just leaves. That was a great show. That was good.
It was a good show. He is id unchecked, right? Like just behaving with no regard for anyone else about anything. His Fields OFs are fallow as F.
Indeed, yes.
That's great. Do you think, I mean, this is kind of an obvious thing. When we talk about the Giuliani thing, we didn't even mention the Hunter Biden email laptop thing that Giuliani basically spearheaded and popularized as best as he could. Makes me think that it's a political retribution, but I still don't know any of the evidence. Maybe he did something wrong. I don't
Dude,
know.
we sit here and we look at these facts and we're like, we're so right. We're so right about everything. The insurgents bull crap, the retribution bull crap, the like stepping on the Constitution, all these things, all the election stuff. We're like fact. And we are so comfortable in our position.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm open to challenges and critique, but like, I'm pretty sure that the way we see the world is accurate.
Yeah.
But there's another group of 4 sitting around right now somewhere doing a podcast right now looking at the same fact pattern and saying a narrative completely opposite 180 of what we're saying, and they feel as secure as we do that they're right.
Sure.
This is the problem.
There's a podcast. It's called like Things You Should Know or something. Have you ever heard of it?
Nope.
Have you heard of it? It's like
No.
I haven't,
stuff
not
you
that
should know.
one. Yeah.
Young
So-
genociders or something?
No. It's just like some dude sitting around. But I listened to one of these episodes, and I could be wrong about the name of the podcast, but they were talking about like climate change, and then one of the guys is like, dude, like, fossil fuels are going to run out anyway. We need to start doing research. And the other guy goes like, yeah, dude, like there's never going to be dinosaurs. You know what I mean? And the guy's like, right, like fossil fuels are dinosaurs and we're not going to have more dinosaurs. And then the guy's like, could you imagine if they like made a Jurassic Park thing to like make more dinosaurs so we can get more oil? And I was like, what is this? It's a top podcast.
Oh my
First
God.
of all, we already synthesized petroleum with algae. It's not dinosaurs.
There's
Wow.
lots of ways. Blue crude. There's lots of ways to make oil nowadays.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
Pressurized plastic with no oxygen.
Well, really,
Convert it back into
converting
oil,
it back.
yeah.
Oh,
So I was like, these people. There are people who genuinely think petroleum is dinosaurs.
Oh my.
It's like, dude, it's not. I think it's mostly algae anyway. It's just organic matter decomposed for the most part, I believe. But regardless, it's like I was reading an article like the week before about a breakthrough in synthesized petroleum. It's not really energy efficient to do. It's energy efficient for us to take it out of the ground because it's already been created. And maybe there's other things we can do. But there are people, when they sit around in their podcast and they talk about stuff, yeah, they're dumb.
They're dumb. They really are dumb. So no, there is no one else that's looking at the facts like we are, who
Dude.
should be as deservedly assured in our positions as we are in ours.
It's listen. When I talk to
Are we the dummies?
No,
No.
we're not.
now I'll tell you this.
Baddies?
We may not be correct.
Very good.
We may not be correct. It may be that we only see the surface layer of the Giuliani FBI thing, and below the surface, it could be nuts. For all we know, aliens are involved. I have no idea. Top secret.
I mean, true. It was my first reaction to be like, look, the FBI, Department of Justice, a judge signed off on a warrant. Like, we have a system in place to make sure that nothing frivolous like this happens. So my first instinct is to be like, man, that Giuliani done effed up somehow.
But what if
But
aliens
yes,
are holding our government hostage
true.
and told the judge he had to do it?
Yes.
Vampire aliens.
Vampire aliens, yeah, but who can actually see themselves in mirrors,
Yes.
and
That
they can
makes more
teleport.
sense.
Right.
Yeah. The point I'm making is
I'm a gorilla.
I am. The reality though is that there's confidential stuff we don't know about.
Definitely.
I'm not saying it's justified. I'm not saying I know what the story is. It could very well be that like Mission Impossible like team stole the vial of stole the vial of fuel from the Genesis device, and Rudy Giuliani has a laptop with the file on it, doesn't realize it. I don't know. I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff we don't know. So we're sitting here as informed as we can be. We may be wrong about all of this stuff. For all we know, Russia's secretly at war with some country, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff we don't know what's going on. But I will tell you, when I listen to these other shows, I can immediately say, they never read that story. They never read that story. They don't know about this conflict. They don't know about that conflict. You look at the stuff with Giuliani right now. I did a segment on it for my main channel. Do you know what the Giuliani stuff is really about?
It said that he was advocating on
Syria.
behalf of Ukraine.
Syria.
Well, it's about the pipeline.
What's going on
Nord
with
Stream 2.
So let me tell you my thoughts. Do you think that Joe Biden got a prosecutor fired to cover up for his son who was facing a potential corruption investigation?
Sounds plausible to me.
What I think the issue for a lot of people is, if that's all you know, it sounds like that's what Joe Biden did. However, I think there's a more obvious reason Hunter Biden was on the board of Burisma. Gazprom controls a large portion of the natural gas coming into the European Union. That's through Ukraine and is controlled by Russia. So U.S. and Western interests need energy companies loyal to the West, not Russia. And so there's been a series of conflicts. One, the Euromaidan protests and the separatist movement. NATO and its allies, the West, the United States, want control of Ukraine, so that they can control the flow of natural gas into Europe through these pipelines. Russia wants Ukraine in the Trade Federation. Separatist fights break out. So the U.S. goes to Syria and says, maybe we can offset this monopoly by building the Qatar-Turkey pipeline. My personal opinion, and I'm lacking a ton of information, is that Joe Biden's intervention in the investigation into Burisma, of which there was an investigation, according to Matt Taibbi, was to protect Western interests, not because the prosecutor was corrupt. The prosecutor likely was loyal to the country of Ukraine, not the United States and the European Union, and not necessarily to Russia, but an investigation into Burisma was bad for the U.S., so Biden intervenes, and his son was there, incidentally, because the U.S. positioned key figures who are loyal to this country. What's a guarantee? You want someone loyal to the country, you put a former CIA director, which they did, and the son of the sitting vice president. Now you know this company will always have your back, and you don't got to worry about an Assad saying, nah, I'm with Russia. That makes more sense. Rudy Giuliani starts digging up information into what's going on, and maybe because I'm saying there's so much I don't know underneath the surface, but maybe what was happening was that individuals in Ukraine were giving information to Giuliani and Trump allies that would have shown the U.S. was meddling in the national affairs of Ukraine for U.S. and European interests, not Ukrainian interests. And if the Ukrainian people find out about that, they will reject NATO because they don't want to live under a boot ever again.
Yes.
My opinion. I don't know if it's true or not because I don't have access to confidential information. There's probably a bunch of other stories I haven't seen, but it is a long and complicated story.
No, that seems to make sense. Also, Tim, by the way, what an encyclopedia of information
Thank
and
God you
knowledge,
exist.
Dude, you read and retain more than most people I've ever met in my whole life. Very impressive.
So when we talk about these lefty podcast people who are like, dude, the Shokin was not a good, he was corrupt. And then it's like, did you read Matt Taibbi's piece on this? No. Why didn't you? I don't know it existed. All right, well, that's a good excuse, I suppose. I can't blame someone for not knowing, because I don't know things that, there are things that exist I don't know about. But Matt, man, did he nail this when he did his investigation, and he said there was like a dozen active investigations against Burisma and this corrupt guy who flees the country. And so to say that there was no investigation, I'm gonna say this, guys, intelligence bros who are watching this show, I'm sorry, I just think you're bad at what you do. Now hold on. You're probably really good at what you do by your standards and by relative standards. But I just think I could do a better job. Like, if you wanted to actually convince people of U.S. interests and like why it's important to have more energy flowing into the European Union, particularly because the European Union, one of its goals is to compete against China because they needed European countries unified. I mean, maybe that's the message you should have rolled with instead of it's all a lie, trust the mainstream media. And then when people catch them in lies, what do? Man, these people it's like being honest is actually the best way to go about it. Insulting the intelligence of people with garbage stories and banning someone's name from YouTube doesn't solve the problem. It makes it worse. I kind of feel like the intelligence agencies were handed off to a bunch of young kids, the next generation of deep state, who are like, I don't know how to run this thing. And now it's all falling apart.
That happens every generation, I think, though. I've seen it happen, especially in Wall Street and finance, where like the younger guys, they figure out new investment strategies and new asset classes, and they go all crazy. And the risk management folks and the senior partners have no idea what they're doing. That's where you can make some real money. And in the intelligence industry, I mean, look, I think it's pretty much like that in all industries. But what I'm struck by here, especially, is how much of the surface water of our foreign policy and economic policy and politics is all subterfuge. The real things are happening below. They're tidal forces. And in this case, it's about energy, right? And the whole Syrian no-fly zone from 2016 Clinton proposition to the, people being mad at Trump for wanting to calm down tensions in Syria and calm down tensions with all this is based around pipelines. It's all based around energy, and it's a much deeper structural thing that has nothing to do with some of the surface stuff that we get distracted by. And that's how I know we're on the right side, is because the left, they want a circumstance in which the people of the European Union have less access to energy, and that the people of Ukraine don't have sovereign decision over their country. And our side wants more energy into the European Union and for the Ukrainian people to decide their sovereignty.
Well, no. I think the establishment wants more energy into the European Union. But they don't care about Ukraine.
A specific kind. Well, no, they want... I don't know. Again, there's more details that we need, and I am certainly not an expert on this subject.
Let me give you a hypothetical.
All right.
Donald Trump.
I'm much better with those.
Donald Trump comes into office, and immediately Michael Flynn says China's a bigger threat. Intelligence agencies then say, we know China's a bigger threat, but don't say it out loud because we are actively building up our resistance. The European Union was formed partly to create a competitive economic bloc that can compete against the growth of China. And we need, and Russia's in the way. Russia's actually, in many ways, hates China, but also works with them. We need to get more energy into the European Union. Trump comes in and says, I don't care about this Ukraine stuff. I don't care about this Syria stuff. America first, all the way. And then you have these intelligence agencies saying, the first thing we have to do to grow and be competitive is have more energy into Europe to grow European influence, not Chinese or Russian influence. I know Russia is partly in Europe. Then you get Trump pulling out of Syria, which means over the past 4 years, Trump was stopping the establishment plan to get more energy into the European Union and to weaken Russia, which in turn would weaken China. Trump went straight for the throat with China and then got all these peace agreements, which made it even harder for the U.S. to operate in the Middle East to maintain control over the region. The U.S. isn't there because there's, terror or whatever. And the fact this conflict between these countries is good for the U.S. because we'd be like, oh, no, we have to be there. And we have to send all these bombs to these different countries who Egypt needs our military aid. Trump bringing about peace. Well, now the U.S. is like, what's our justification to the American people and European people and Australia or whatever, our allies? What's the justification for being in a country when Trump brings peace?
Justification now is we need to bring transgenderism to the women of Afghanistan.
Pakistan. It was like, what was it, $10 million? So listen, I say it's hypothetical. And the reason why, after researching the things that I've researched and seeing this, talking to the journalists and reading the stories, the reason why I don't trust the establishment is because they lie all the time and don't deserve trust. So I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume they have our best interests. I'm going to assume that cronies within the U.S. government took the job at Burisma because they found a path towards making a ton of money for themselves, not because they actually cared about the European Union. And Hunter Biden took the job because, they needed someone loyal to the U.S., but they were going to get money for doing it. You got a bunch of people who work in government who swap between these big energy companies and these military industrial complex companies, and they make money for themselves, and they operate under the guise of it's all for the betterment of the country. And when it's not, it's for the betterment of themselves. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And if you want exclusive members-only content segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.